So it's been a while, but I've still been reading My Hero Academia, the manga. So this will be a review of volumes 14 to 23. So if you've seen my other video, I'm quite critical of My Hero Academia. I feel like there isn't enough depth, I guess, or like high stakes sort of things happening. But overall, I still enjoy it, reading. And obviously I actually quite enjoy watching the anime more for the colors and the music and the voice acting. So immediately after the test, basically that's the last arc before we get into the next one. The next arc is that after our heroes have passed the hero exam, they are essentially going on internships. And one of the biggest things they have to do is deal with the Shi-Hisakai. They are basically a Yakuza gang. They have their own plan, and they're teaming up with the League of Villains to do a new thing. They are processing a drug that allows, with being properly tweaked, they can take away someone's powers. So, they plan on bringing society in Japan back to the modern age of no one having powers. So the students don't play much of a big role in this because it's mostly the pro heroes dealing with, but they have to basically infiltrate and attack this compound full of specialized gangster villains. And I quite enjoyed this arc. This arc was probably the one that had the most action, for one thing. I mean, usually they spent the whole good 13 volumes of the manga doing mostly tests or like sparring matches or like, role play stuff, disable this bomb or, do this or fight one of your teachers. But those are all sort of low stakes, sort of, flashy. Doesn't really have any consequences if you win or lose. For me, I felt like the only arcs that really mattered in volumes 1 to 13 were the fight at USJ, where the Nomu comes in and he takes All Might to the limit, and then obviously also the test, because if they fail the test, they can't become heroes for an entire year. So this story arc also had a lot of big stakes because the students are no longer wearing the kid gloves. There's no longer like, oh, now we have to go do a tournament thing or something. It's actually like they're fighting actual villains. They could get hurt, they could get killed, they could mess up, and that's you raise the stakes, you get better reading for me. So I really liked this arc. It only lasts like for two to four volumes, I think. I think volume 16 is the end of the major conflict. After that, you have the gentle criminal arc. Honestly, I really enjoyed this one. It's a much lower stakes not lower stakes. It still remains high stakes because it's all about Eri, but the villain is downgraded to just a small threat, which I really liked. It wasn't something like, oh no, we're hanging out at the mall and the League of Villains is back. It's something a lot more personal. This gentle criminal wants to make a name for himself, but in doing so, he could shut down the festival that will bring a smile to Eri's face. And that's kind of something that means a lot to Izuku. And he's also a very fleshed out, campy character, but he also has like a lot of backstory. You find out where he's from. He's got a quite powerful quirk, and it's just Izuku versus him. So it's like really personal, intimate, sort of, if I don't stop this guy, he could ruin everything. And it's high stakes, even though it's, he's just crashing a festival, but it means the world to Izuku. So that's, I felt, after the, high intense fighting, they're fighting superpowered Yakuza in the last arc. This one's a little bit nice change of pace. It's a different kind of villain who's not out to hurt anyone, but his actions could have consequences for people that Izuku cares about. So after this arc, then we have another tournament-like arc. It's mainly Class 1A teaming up and fighting Class 1B. It's mainly just a showcase of their powers. We only got to see a little bit of their stuff from the not the school festival, the tournament arc, basically. And honestly, it was okay. It's interesting seeing new seeing more upgrades for characters we've already seen before. But this one's mostly just a sort of series of battles. But I think the biggest twist, of course, is that we find out more about Izuku's power. And there's actually something really big that happens for him. So, that was probably the most intriguing part of that arc. You know, because I was expecting just a simple, you know, oh, we're gonna, you know, spar with this class for a little bit, and you know, it's kind of like when you're watching those boxing movies and they have that sort of, you know, mid-movie sparring sort of match that doesn't really matter, but it's there. That's kind of what it feels like whenever My Hero Academia uses this. You know, there's the tournament, there's the exams where they fight their teacher, there's the one where they pretend to be villains and heroes, and then there's also this one. So immediately after this, they're setting up something big with the League of Villains. I have to stop reading for now because I'm waiting for the volumes to be released, but essentially the whole perspective switches to the League of Villains, basically, and they're taking on a new, interesting threat that I really like. They're called the People's Liberation Army or something like that. They're basically people who want to demolish the laws that keep heroes the only ones legally allowed to use their powers. They want to crush the League of Villains, and the League of Villains are trying to scramble and get back to their former glory because they don't have any money, support, transportation, and they're basically trying to pick up the pieces after being defeated so many times. And they basically leave off on a cliffhanger, and the League of Villains will be facing the People's Liberation Army in the next volume. So I'm very excited because, you know, with the League of Villains, you can kill stuff. You know, they don't have any qualms about killing people, so I'm hoping for some big battles. So that's what I feel about volumes 14 to 23.